Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Migron Omega, one of the thickest production folding knives ever in the history of the production folding knife world. This is one of the biggest, thickest folding knives we have ever seen. This is a knife that was intended to, be in direct competition, of course, with the PMP Alpha Beast and Ultimate Alpha Beast. So it's no coincidence that we have the Alpha and then we have this one named the Omega, which I'm going to admit I did suggest that to Migron. I think that is fun, and I'm a big fan of the ridiculous, nonsensical, overbuilt knife world. I think it's fun. I think everybody who's participating in manufacturing these things knows that it's fun, and I think all of the potential buyers also completely and totally understand that it's just for fun. They're ridiculous. They are not convenient in any way, shape, or form. They are functional, but just not convenient, right? So it takes a specific type of enthusiast and collector to enjoy this stuff, but this has been popular for a long time. Since the 2010s, I think, is when this trend of monstrously, comically overbuilt folding knives started, and it has persisted to this day. So this is a cool knife. It's available. It is very expensive, but substantially less expensive than the Ultimate Alpha Beast. So yeah, I'll link it down in the description. You have a couple choices. You have this finish, or you do have also the DLC finish for $10 more. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to Migron for sending this in for review. Thanks to Patreon for supporting me, my Patreon supporters. Let's do some size comparisons. So this knife was, they started developing it after the popularity of the Alpha Beast. This is the standard Alpha Beast. So this knife was intended as competition for the Alpha Beast. You can see it's a little bit bigger, and it's also a little bit thicker. We're going to show it here, but this guy, I've measured it many times. The Alpha Beast comes in at 400 thousandths. There was a time where this was the thickest production folding knife ever. There are thicker custom knives that have existed, like Reese Whelan's stuff and Griffin, I think, but 400 thousandths is about the thickest. And so they said, should we do one a little bit thicker? I said, yeah, sure. I mean, like, it's just going to, like, companies are going to continue to go back and forth and make thicker and thicker and thicker knives. They already have, right? They went a little bit longer and a little bit thicker. So it is a little bit longer, and this guy's, I'll get the thickness here in a second, but it is. It also has a locking pin, which the PMP Alpha Beast and Ultimate Alpha Beast do not have. So there it is up against that, and then here is the blade stock. You might be able to tell, maybe not. Out of the tip, definitely thicker. It's also a little bit longer, but it is slightly, ever so slightly thicker. Let's do some size comparisons up against some more rational pocket knives. Trying to find a place for that one there. Okay. Let's put it up against my own Excalibur. And another knife that's actually pretty huge is the 8010. That's a huge knife, right? The Omega's way bigger, like way. It's not even close. Take a look at the blade stocks here, which 8010, usually considered a pretty thick knife. How big is it? We should probably measure it. I didn't actually do that at the beginning like I usually do. So the Omega is coming in at 9.35 inches with a blade length of 4 1/4. Cutting edge 3.75 cutting edge. Some other size comparisons up against the PM2 and the Para 3. Wow, it's huge. Finally up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How is the action on this knife? This is where this is one of those things, and there will be a final battle. I gotta do Alpha versus Omega. I gotta the opportunity for a thumbnail, like a ridiculous thumbnail, Alpha versus Omega. Like, I have to take that opportunity. I technically created this. I'm sorry. No, I'm not suggesting I created it. But suggesting that they name it this. Like, I definitely set this up, and Migron knew exactly what I was doing, and I think they think it was fun, and I couldn't imagine PMP would would be bothered by it. I think it's just this type of fun sort of competition in the knife world. You know, it was, I think, bound to happen. Somebody would have stepped up to the plate and made a thick competitor called the Omega. If you name your knife the Alpha, right? It's just going to happen, since we're playing with the Greek alphabet. In fact, somebody's going to come along and make a Sigma, right? And if they do, now everybody will say the freaking Sigma knife, that was Metal Complex. That's what's going to happen, right? Anyways, where this, one of the elements that this shines, we'll talk more about this in the battle too, but this has a flipper tab. Not only does it work, right? I mean, this is, for this big of a knife, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the best flipper I've ever handled, because it isn't. But as far as like big, crazy, overbuilt knives go, I can't think of too many. Like maybe also the Migron Arma and the Arma XL were good flippers. It's insane that they actually made this work and made it feel good. It's very easy to disengage. There's no double clutch. Get your finger out of the way, because there's a sharp blade coming down despite how thick it is. It's incredible. It's crazy. You can also ignore the flipper tab and use the fuller, which works really well for flipping it, as well as, actually, if you get your thumb tucked up the top part of that, actually works really, really well. There's a cricket in here somewhere, and it's driving me insane. Hang on. Anyways, yeah, the action is really good. The pivot action is really, really smooth, and it's just kind of a funny contrast, because it looks like such a ridiculous, clunky cave person object, and kind of is, but it's also kind of a testament to where we are. I mean, like, knife companies or OEMs are able to manufacture these things. It's in such like ridiculous tolerances and such high levels of quality that you can take an object like this and turn it into something that feels pretty luxurious and pretty, expertly machined and crafted. So yeah, in the action department, this is pretty darn great. A lot of people are concerned about the big open space on the back here. Can you reach in and touch the blade? Yes, pretty easily. I think one thing that they did here, or that they did not do that they should have done, is have the backspacer run the entire length, right? A lot of people say, oh, well, that might create balance issues. I'm not sure that matters. In fact, if anything, the blade is it's a little blade heavy. You could probably have it a little bit back here. You want the center point to be where your index finger is. So they probably could have added a little bit of weight back here and protected your finger. That being said, I think it's pretty unlikely to reach in here and slice your finger on the blade. You'd have to almost intentionally do it, but it is possible. So just be cognizant of that. Let's do carry profile. The thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3, which, by the way, can also almost fit inside of these scales. The bug out definitely can. The bug out can easily fit in between here, right? It's freaking gigantic. It's huge. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. While the Omega is slightly less inconvenient to carry than the Alpha Beast and Ultimate Alpha Beast, it is still wildly inconvenient. There is no real winner there. Like, well, again, we'll do that big comparison, directly. But just to answer your question, Ryan, if you don't want to wait for that video or watch the whole thing, they're both insanely inconvenient. There's not, like this isn't if you want me to give you a suggestion on an overbuilt knife that you can actually carry, the standard Arma through Migron, that's almost a 1/4 inch thick, maybe a 1/4 inch thick. So it's definitely beefy and chunky, and it gives you that. But it's actually something you could put in your pocket and adapt to. This, it doesn't matter like how big your, how big a man are. It doesn't matter how big your meaty paws are. It doesn't matter. You're Duluth. My work pants are so thick. It doesn't matter how much of a, refrigerator person you are. This is going to be an inconvenient thing to put in your pocket. You will be constantly aware of it. It swings around, and it's just not something. I mean, it will distract you throughout the entire day. Definitely. It's like wearing a tool belt on your face. Like that's honestly what it makes me think, because I cannot be not distracted by it. It's ridiculous. Anyways, let's measure the blade stock thickness so we can get the actual, so everybody knows how thick the thing is. It is definitely thicker than the Alpha Beast. I'll do them. So side by side here, which again, this was the knife that it was meant to compete with. I think I didn't realize, and Migron didn't realize that the Ultimate Alpha Beast was already in production. So this comes in at 394 thousandths. So roughly 400 thousandths. This guy, got to get that exactly right. This guy comes in at 424 thousandths. Definitively thicker. Definitively. So there you go. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So weight for the Migron Omega. Sorry, my littlest one it's Labor Day. I'm recording this on Labor Day, so everybody is here at the house. So I have crickets and children and everything in the background. 15.3 ounces. It's kind of impressive that this knife manages to not be a pound, because the Alpha Beast is actually heavier. It's made 1 pound 6 ounces. Not 1 pound 6 ounces. 1 pound 0.6 ounces. That's crazy. It's probably because of all the internal milling here, which you can see is a lot, right? Big chunk of the blade removed to create that little fuller, or whatever you want to call that. Hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I think these are all T10. I think. We'll get the T8 out just in case. But, whoops-a-daisy. Oh, it's bigger. The pivot is a T15. That's cool. Now, the body screws are a few different things. The body screws are... What the heck? Is this my... That's a T9. Where's my T8? We got the T15 and we got the T10. Okay, so it's this one. So these are T8, and then your pocket clip screws are also T8, which is good, and then the lock bar insert screw is a T6, and who cares? I mean, I don't know why you need to remove that, right? So it's a typical frame lock, very easy to take apart and put back together. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Nice work on the T15 pivot there. It's a big knife. It should have a big pivot. And we weighed it. We did all that. Let's get into the meat and potatoes here. For a lot of people, this will simply come down to, do you want a Tanto? Do you want the regular version? I don't know if Migron plans on making a version of this knife that's not a Tanto. Might be a good idea to make a drop point version of the Omega, or like a non-Tanto version, whatever you want to call it, right? What's cool is it's got this big gnarly harpoon notch. It just looks so primal, right? I really like this. It has this sort of, butt stop thing. And you can see here, I wear an XL glove. My hands are pretty big. They're not huge, but like I would say, like this is what like most people would say, like kind of where a big hand maybe starts, or maybe my hands are slightly smaller. I've always said that I've had fairly average grown man sized hands. They're not special. An XL glove size doesn't mean big. A truly large hand, I think, would start as a 2XL glove size by Home Depot standards, and then up, right? So if you're 2XL or 3XL by Home Depot standards, I think you got big hands. Even you guys will still have room left over at the end. However, I wish that they had not done this. I wish that they had just chopped this off, because ergonomically it leaves this whole area open right here for another finger. If you're one of those really, really rare people that have monster paws, your hand might not fit. And if you're a 3XL or bigger in terms of hands, this might stop you from being able to comfortably hold this. Me and all the other normal, average hand-sized people on Earth, yeah, no problem. Got plenty of room, right? I think this is more of a styling thing than anything else. Functionally, you will probably not drop this, right? But there you go. Like I said, you have DLC option and non-DLC. So what are the materials for this? Because this is a big deal. We have titanium, obviously ridiculously thick titanium. I think that's actually quite a bit over a 1/4 inch in the size of the titanium. That's just a little, I guess it's a little less, 240 thousandths, 236 thousandths. Almost a 1/4 inch, right? So this is frag textured, which I think is cool. The whole thing has the hyper aggressive hyper masculine look that a lot of people, buy these knives for. There's nothing here that I feel like was a bad choice in terms of how they decided to make it look. It just looks exactly like what it's supposed to be. The pocket clip, actually, it's, the tension's not too bad. It's fairly long. In and out of the pocket is not too bad. This isn't a super aggressive texturing, so it doesn't really create much of a problem. The blade is L-Max, not D2, L-Max. L-Max is a premium steel. In fact, that's one of the steels that I really, really like. Made by Bowler. As far as, the end result, like where does it kind of land on the super steel chart? Right in between, in terms of performance and balance of everything, I would list it somewhere in between S35VN and M390. It's got a lot of corrosion resistance, not as much as M390, but it does have a lot. It's definitely stainless steel. It's tougher than M390, definitely. I don't think it's quite as tough as S35VN, but it's pretty tough, like, definitely. It's not going to have quite as good edge retention as M390, but a little better than S35VN. This is a really good balance, and it's also not one of those steels, in my experience, that is frustrating to sharpen. It takes a bit, but not nearly as long as, like, the properly hardened M390. The HRC range for L-Max is pretty wide, like as far as where it can be considered good. If you want an ultra tough L-Max fixed blade, you'd probably want to get down to, 58, 59. I think a lot of people wouldn't go lower than 59. And then it can go all the way up to 62, even 63. Typically we see it right around 59 to 61, and I think that's a pretty good spot for it. It doesn't necessarily need to be ultra hard, but we don't want it ultra soft either. But that's where they're hitting it. I think that that's just fine. And you have to consider the edge geometry, which is ridiculous. It almost doesn't matter what they make the blade out of. I mean, it does, right? You still want, if you're paying this much money for a knife, you at least want it to be, even if you can't really execute the purpose of it properly, you at least want it to be, a lot of people want it to be a special steel. So is it actually sharp? Yeah. Not nearly as sharp as a much more convenient and utilitarian folding knife. The edge geometry is very, very thick, both out here and on the primary edge. And I would say it's more of a tear than a slice, but you can get it to bite and it will slice, definitely. So that's good. I'm glad that you can actually do that. But if you cut things like rope, wood, cardboard, rubber, styrofoam, you'll realize that you're having to push the entire wedge of material, oftentimes through that material, and you're going to get hung up. It's going to slow you down, and it's not going to be a comfortable or convenient experience, right? As far as the manufacturing quality, like how well was this all executed, it's beautiful. Migron did an excellent job. And, I think gone are the days where if you want to get some big, crazy, burly, overbuilt thing, you just kind of have to accept that it's going to be clunky and awkward and not, the highest quality. No, those days are gone, because we have companies like Migron who can do this and make it essentially like by, not in terms of design, but in terms of the manufacturing quality, it's essentially perfect. Like the bevels are even on both sides. They look really good, right? All the grind lines, everything like that, it just looks excellent. It's got jimping back here that is functional. My favorite part of this knife is this ridiculous wall of material that's created by the harpoon notch. I just think that's awesome. It is such a nasty looking blade. It's so cool. But yeah, big fan of that. That's pretty much it. I mean, as far as ergonomic comfort goes, it's big and it is huge. It's not there's no hot spots or anything like that. But you're kind of pulled away. Like when you're trying to determine whether or not it's comfortable, it's really hard to focus on that part because you're distracted by how monstrously huge it is. So I'm not going to say it is the most comfortable knife handle, but it does make you feel powerful and cool. It makes you, and I think that's why people buy this stuff, partially. Backspacer, it's just like a thin gear pattern backspacer. Pretty cool. I think they could have done a number of different things that would have been fine. Pocket clip, a little long, but it's fine. What's this extra hole back here? Because one of them is a lanyard hole. Well, this other hole, I believe, is to store the secondary stop pin it comes with, right? So you can have that there if you want. It's not really convenient or comfortable to keep that there during use or especially during flipping, but you have that option. With this having a key ring on it, if you wanted to keep it on your person, I would just keep it on your keys. You can also lock this blade out into the open position, which is cool. And it does technically make it a little bit stronger than your average frame lock. There's still pressure on the frame lock. This does not completely take over in terms of, the pressure that's applied here. There's 2 holes, and the only reason I can come up with for that is, if you had 2 pins, then you could double lock it. Maybe it's so that you can put the pin in a different spot so that it's like ergonomically not bothering some people as much. It's like a preferential position. A lot of people are like, oh, it's because one's for open and one's for closed. Well, both of them function in the open and closed position. Like there's actually 2 holes in the blade and they line up correctly, open or closed. So I don't know, like if you lock it, it's not going to come undone. Doesn't matter if you put it in this one or you put it in this one, it's the exact same thing. So I don't know, maybe I'm missing something simple. Migron, if you want to chime in, what's the reason for the 2 holes? I don't know. I didn't ask them, but I figured, if they want to jump in the comments and say something, then they can. So yeah, there you go. Or you can just ignore that because it doesn't require this to lock out. It will lock out without it. How well does it lock out? Well, completely and totally solid. There's no blade play up, down, left, or right. We do have a lock bar insert that doubles as an over travel stop, so that's great. There is no double clutch, no pivot lash, and it is very, very smooth down into the closed position with no detent lash, and it is also perfectly centered, I believe. Yeah, perfectly centered. Is this convenient? Do I recommend it to the average person? Oh my God, no, this is crazy. It's way too big. What are you thinking, you silly goose? But that's not why you're watching this, right? Not because you want to make a rational purchase. You want to know, you wanted all the details because you've already decided to make an irrational purchase, right? If you're this far into the video, you're either just really entertained by this stuff or you're actually considering buying this. So I have to assume you're like me. You know that it's not going to be convenient. It's not going to, make your day-to-day easier. If you dedicate to this thing in your pocket, it's actually going to make your day harder. But you don't care. You want it anyway. I just want to know if it's made well. Yeah, it is. It's made incredibly well. If you are intentionally trying to buy a functional novelty overbuilt, object and you like how this one looks, right? You want titanium, you want the super steel, you want all the, that cricket is still alive. I'm going to find you and kill you. Your time is limited. You sound weak. You sound weak. Anyways, yeah, this is a well-made overbuilt knife. This ridiculously overbuilt knife with premium materials. In fact, as far as other objects that exist in this general vicinity, it's a pretty good value. As a pocket knife, no, it's way too expensive. As an overbuilt premium knife, it's probably one of the best I've seen, if not the best I've seen, dollar for dollar. You can go slightly thinner and buy like the Geddon or the Arma from Migron, and they charge you a little bit less. It's not quite as thick. But if you want this thick of a blade, I don't think I've ever seen. The Alpha Beast was substantially more expensive than this, and the Ultimate Alpha Beast is almost it's about 75 more for the standard version in D2, and 175 more for the DLC version. But that DLC version is mirror polished. So, do I recommend this knife to overbuilt knife enthusiasts? Yes. To literally everybody else, no. It's ridiculous. But it is fun, and Migron did a really, really good job. I have to end this video now so that I can go and murder that cricket. Thank you so much to Migron for sending this in. I will link it down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.